sure if the microphone's working or not. Can you hear me? There seems to be a delay. Apparently this is easy to set up. It's taken me about an hour so far. I must be stupid. Oh, that's good. It says I have an excellent connection, yet there seems to be a delay. Okay, it looks like there's about a 5-second delay. I wonder if I can do something about that. I finally managed to get my nipper back. My wife stole it. Find somewhere to put it. I've got a lot of boxes of books and things in the attic, and when I was going through it I found this. It's supposed to be a film canister. I think it's German. apparently limited edition number 347. Limited to how many millions, I don't know. Film poster. Yeah, German. Don't even remember buying it. Well, .32 p.m. Hello Mark, I'm just setting this up. It said in the instructions it's very easy to do. It took me an hour to get the camera to work. I'm trying to work out why there's a delay. So this is basically just testing everything works. Trying to see how many seconds it is before this shows up. So there's about a 6-second delay. So this is my genuine Sun 45. It has the press marks, push marks. And then my 78. I dreamed of getting these when I was a kid, and I first saw them in a magazine, and it took me about 40 years, but I wanted to be careful about where I bought it, make sure everything was right. I didn't expect people to actually turn up. It says I have an excellent connection, yet there's a delay, which is annoying me. It says I have an excellent connection, yet there's a delay, which is annoying me. Well, hello to everyone. I have an excellent connection, yet there's a delay, which is annoying me. Well, hello to everyone. I have an excellent connection, yet there's a delay, which is annoying me. Well, hello to everyone. I have an excellent connection, yet there's a delay. I have no idea what's happening. Hello to everyone. I have an excellent connection, yet there's a... I have no idea what's happening. So I need to sort this microphone out. So I need to sort this microphone out. So I need to sort this microphone out. Why does it keep repeating? So I need to sort this microphone. it keep repeating? I need to sort this microphone out. Why does it keep repeating? I need to sort this microphone out. Why does it keep repeating? I need to sort this microphone out. Why does it keep repeating? It says I've got 2 likes. What is there to like? It says I've got 2 likes. What is there to like? It says I've got 2 likes. What is there? It keeps repeating. What on earth's going on? I've got 2 likes. It keeps repeating. What on earth's going on? Okay, are you hearing like an echo, or is it just me? Okay, are you hearing like an echo, or is it just me? Okay, are you hearing like an echo, or is it just me? Okay, are you hearing? So if I turn the speakers off here, maybe the microphone's picking up. If I turn the speakers off, is that better? Maybe the microphone's picking up. So if I turn the speakers off, is that better? Maybe the microphone's picking up. So if I turn the speakers off, is that better? Maybe the microphone's picking up. So if I turn the speakers off, is that better? Maybe the microphone's picking up. Is that better? Audio mixer. It's got lots of different buttons and things and sliders. Not a clue what any of it does. Maybe if I reduce some of these. Yeah, it wasn't repeating at the start, so what changed? Ah. Well, I could claim I knew what I was doing, but I just moved some sliders around a bit. Right, don't touch them again. Well, that's good, not repeating now, thanks. Well, I guess while you're here, anything you want to see? I'm waiting for some new arrivals. particularly a copy of On Stage, because my next video is going to be the On Stage album, and there's one particular pressing that I've always wanted, and I finally found one for sale, and it's coming from overseas. It's actually in the UK now, just waiting for Royal Mail, who lately have been absolutely useless, so how long it's going to take to actually get to me I don't know. I was hoping this week, but this week is passing quickly. Going live, you feel like you should be talking all the time. Looks like there's nothing I can do about the delay. White horses, yeah, I think that's something that we all have to buy. You can't do without it, really. I'm just really disappointed that they didn't include at least one complete concert. It'd be great to have a complete professionally filmed concert from 1972. So are you also going to get the vinyl album? There's just so much stuff to buy, not enough money. I made the mistake of getting interested in foreign pressings. So, but the trick is not to buy them from dealers in your own country. Try and get them from source, where they tend to be a lot cheaper. And the years I've been buying, I've never had anything arrive broken, which is good. I just love things like this. Paradise Hawaiian style from Brazil. So the on stage that I've got coming is a bizarre one. Well, I've got a theory as to why they chose the cover. So we'll see. I mean, Brazilian albums are not easy to get, and they are quite expensive. But I just like the different covers, and that's how you end up with 32 copies of Blue Hawaii, all different. I think I've got about 20 of Fun in Acapulco. I didn't prepare anything because this was just testing how this all works, and I didn't think anybody would actually be watching. So I probably won't be able to find. So there's Roustabout. or Il Cantante del Luna Park. This was Italian. The one fun in Acapulco I haven't got, which I would like to get, is the Mexican one. Two vinyls of Blue Hawaii is actually enough. This becomes an obsession. Another obsession I've got is the single My Boy. So I've got over 20 copies now of My Boy from all around the world. The thing that I was really pleased to get was this. It's just a piece of paper. So the single was pressed in America because of problems with vinyl production in the UK, and when they were imported, one of these was put in each batch, so it's a very hard thing to find. I can show you where this obsession leads. So these are all My Boy. So this is Portuguese. It's been a while since I've looked at them. That was German, French, Belgian, Australian, collectibles, old gold. This was the coloured vinyl re-release. Gold Standard Series. American. American Promo. Now this is an interesting one. This grey label was actually made in America, imported into the UK. So it's got a UK RCA picture sleeve. I don't know if you'll be able to see down here. It actually says made in the USA. So that's something to look out for. Standard UK solid. Yugoslavia. It's strange, during the communist period, Yugoslavia pressed all of Elvis's current releases. Spanish, UK again, Golden Grapes. This was from Canada. I ordered that from Canada and I thought it was lost. It took nearly 2 months, but it finally got here. What was this? Uruguay. The injection moulded version. I worked in injection moulding for 17 years. I wish we'd have been making records. I'd have made some very rare coloured vinyls. That's Spanish again, but it's a promo. Yeah, I like the French LPs. They tend to have a very large RCA up in the top left corner. Then I become obsessed, and I'm looking for these all over the place. This was an unusual one. This is a promo, and it's from Peru. Australian. Can't remember where that one's from. This is down there, From the Good Times LP. So that's a lot of copies of My Boy. And that's where this obsession takes you. My dad could never understand collecting anything. He'd always say, "What are you wasting your money? You've already got that." The Japanese albums are really good. Criticism, I think a lot of RCA, because they seem to be very slapdash in Elvis's albums, the artwork, the selection of songs, etc. Yeah, Austin Butler winning a Golden Globe. I'm not sure what was he doing with his voice. It would be good if he could win the Oscar. He certainly deserves it. The amount, the effort that he put into that. I'm never keen on Elvis impersonators. My own personal opinion, but I think they're bad for Elvis's image. When the average person in the street thinks of Elvis, they don't think of Elvis. They think of some fat guy with a wig in a awful-looking jumpsuit, warbling away. That to them is Elvis, unfortunately. I can't understand why Graceland became so locked in with impersonators. But I went to see the film thinking I wasn't going to like it, and I was really impressed. Not so impressed with the soundtrack. I didn't buy the album. Oh yeah, buying albums for their covers. I remember going into record shops, and the chap had bought some imports, I think from Germany. So they were just sort of bland compilations of the same songs, but each had a different cover on it. And I went in and got very excited, and of course I had to buy one of every one of them. Never actually played them. I think I tend to play CDs and MP3s, but I haven't had a record player since 2000. I moved to Finland for 3 years, and of course I didn't want to take all my albums and CDs with me, so I put everything in fact I did take a selection of CDs, but when I came back my parents had moved and my record player had gone, so since then I've not played a record, which seems a bit odd to be surrounded by all these albums. But I will buy one eventually. I guess most people now listen to either CDs or MP3s. But like I said, I was just doing this to test how this works, so I didn't have anything planned. If anybody wants to ask me a question whilst I'm here, or wants to see anything in particular, I'm a very avid watcher of eBay. I'm on there all the time. Luckily my work means that I'm online, so I'm always having a look. And if you keep a close eye on it, new listings, every now and then an absolute bargain appears. So I've picked up some really nice things very cheaply. I wanted the 2 vinyl box sets, the King of Rock and Roll 50s box set and the 60s Memphis to Nashville sets, and they both appeared recently at very cheap prices, so I managed to get those. But I have also paid well over the odds for some things that I just see and I just want them. No, eBay is keep getting tempted by a lot of things. The number of times I've had a basket full of stuff and then slowly deleted and deleted and deleted and got down to one. I could spend a fortune. But I've always had good experience on eBay. The place that I had a not so good experience is Discogs. There are some people on there, I think they just don't know what they're doing. And you see, I once saw an original US pressing of an album, said in excellent condition, the price looked good, so I bought it. And what turned up was a 1980s repressing. And I think what they do is they put the title of the album into Discogs. The page comes up and they just click on the first album. They don't seem to appreciate. I didn't complain too much. He was just starting out. I did point out that you need to make sure you're picking the right selection. And the one he sent me was pressing I didn't have, and the price was okay. So it would have been a bit of a steal if it had turned out to be right. But yeah, Kerry, eBay's good. The thing I like about eBay is you get to see what you're buying with Discogs. You don't actually see the actual disc you're buying. That's the big problem. So with Discogs, I only buy now from people who've got lots of feedback, 100%, 98%, 99%, and they've sold a lot of items, so we'll be pretty sure that they know what they're doing. We have got 2 vinyl record shops selling old stuff here. One of them only opens a couple of days in the week when I'm not really able to get there. The other one I can go to on a Saturday. They don't have great selections, but every now and then something nice turns up at a reasonable price. We also have a record fair at the town hall here 4 times a year. Not a lot of Elvis there, which surprises me. The last couple of times I've gone and not spent anything. So yeah, Kerry, Discogs, you just got to be careful. You can get some good price stuff there. I tend to buy more on there from the more exotic countries. Just ask questions before they ship to make sure that they are selling what I think they're selling. So I've bought on there from Peru, Mexico, Japan, Brazil. The only place I had the problem was Canada, of all things. But that turned out well eventually. The thing I haven't been buying much of is CDs. When the CD first came out, I immediately bought a player. The first thing I bought was this. Now the very first Elvis CDs produced looks like this, but it's in a red box. And there's actually a story about this. The people who produced, sorry, a gold box, not red. The people who produced that were not happy because that was a limited edition. Were not happy when this appeared because they said the gold box will be a strictly limited edition, and it was. And of course, it sold out immediately. The first Elvis CDs on the market, and the record shop, the company were screaming. They had so many orders, and so somebody decided to just change the box to a silver box. And the people who produced the gold box weren't happy. So other than that, changing the colour, it's the same. It comes with a certificate. Has anybody got the gold box? Danny, have you got the gold standards, Joshua and Milky Way? Right here, hold on, if I can find them. There's the how great thou art is hand in mine, which is not easy to get, and that's actually a promo. So that's not what you asked. Let's see if I can find them. Around here somewhere. Right. Joshua fit for that one, Milky Way. Okay, there's Milky White Way. And Joshua fit the button. That was a recent purchase on eBay where the person selling it didn't know what it was. I don't feel bad about buying these things cheaply because they obviously didn't pay a lot for it. So I got that for £20. And if you look on the Elvis London shop, I think they want something like 150. So there's Hangdog, and that's the white promo. All shook up, the white promo. So the only one I'm missing is which one is it? I've forgotten. I'm missing one and I can't remember which one it was. I find it a bizarre decision, whoever came up with this, to release these 5 singles and send promos to the radio stations. So I've got all the RCA singles that released when he was alive, and all the UK ones except one. So if you know anything about UK pressings, you'll know which one it is. Virtually impossible to find, though it is out there somewhere. Yeah, Crying in the Chapel was a gold standard, which was a strange decision because the gold standard releases were supposed to be a way of keeping all of Elvis's catalogue available. So they were all records that had been released before. Of course, Crying in the Chapel had never been on a single before. it was a good decision to release it. What else? I do have a box full of gold standard singles. I don't know if you saw my video on them. I explained what they were and the different colours. Yep. It's strange, isn't it? Apparently Elvis wasn't happy with his vocal on Crying in the Chapel. Amazing to think he wasn't happy with it. I listened to it many, many times and I can't see anything not to be happy with. It sounds perfect to me. Think what have I had new? I haven't really kept up with CDs, though I do have a lot. I've bought all of the FTD studio session sets. I stopped buying the live ones. It was just too much of the same and too many of them. As much as I love Elvis, I don't need to hear every single concert. And I do like these repackaged sets. Very compact. Never actually opened this because I've got a playing copy. Another thing I've really started to buy now are the Japanese singles. Now you can blame David at Elvis in Japan for this. But I do like the alternative covers. There are of course some very rare ones which I would like. Charo I particularly like. Hello Tony. Yeah, this was a test. I didn't think anybody would actually turn up. I didn't realise it was going to be public. So I'd a bit of a surprise when people started appearing. Another box I pulled out of the attic. Had, of 10-inch singles, sorry, 10-inch albums, which when I went to Memphis in 1982, I tried to pack as little in my suitcase as I could because I was going to buy bootlegs. You have to understand that for people like us in the UK, living in little towns in the middle of nowhere, bootlegs were a very exotic thing that we didn't have access to. So I filled my suitcase. For me the big tragedy of it was the last day I pretty much spent all my money, and a chap showed up and he had a table full of box set behind closed doors, and I could have cried. Beautiful box set, fantastic sound quality, all these rare outtakes never heard, and I couldn't buy it. FTDs. When they first appeared, I remember getting the Elvis Fan Club magazine, and there was a flyer in there announcing Blue Hawaii, and I looked at it and I thought, why would I want to buy Blue Hawaii again? I buy the CD with all the extra outtakes on it, so I didn't buy them. Then I saw one somewhere and I thought, oh my god, these are fantastic, so I started buying them. So I have got Blue Hawaii and Standing Room Only. I paid far too much for them, but at one point I did think, well, I'll get them all, but I have decided against that now, because what it would cost me to buy them, I could buy lots of foreign releases, lots of really nice unusual things. I don't know about you, but things don't have to be perfect for me. I don't need sealed perfect copies. I don't mind that they'd be used. I don't like ripped covers or lots of writing on them or things like that, but other than that, if an album's been played, that's fine. Yeah, Tony, it's bizarre, but they're reproducing all those original bootlegs. They're repressing them. It's weird. All my bootlegs are up here. Now what I have to remember, of course, in 1982 none of this was legally available. So when you see things like this, the Burbank Sessions Volume 1, double album, so this contains the two shows from June 27th, 1968, complete, and then Volume 2, the two shows from June 29th. Because these just weren't legally available. And if I remember rightly, if it's still in here, these came with little extras inside. Souvenir photo album. And this little envelope, and inside are two reproductions of tickets for the shows. It's been so long. Right, so these are the two June 29th, so I assume the other album has the reproduction tickets for the other two shows. White Horses, why are you undecided about going to Graceland? I have to say, I think I'm lucky. I went in 1982 and it was still very much Elvis's home. From what I can see, there haven't been any great changes. They just put barriers up to steer in the right direction, but it felt like Elvis's home. When we went out the back to the paddocks area, Rising Sun was there, and the person who was walking in brought him up, and we got to say hello to him and take photos of him and pat him. So I think that's as close to Elvis as I ever felt. And of course there's this one, which is now available, and a lot of good footage of this concert. Yeah, very commercial. It spoilt it. I haven't been back. I'm not sure I'd want to go back because I watch a lot of people's videos, and yeah, I think it's very sterile, very over-produced. One thing that I didn't like from what I've seen, when I went there, you walked, they called it the Corridor of Gold, so you walked along this corridor, and both sides of the walls from top to bottom, right along this corridor, had gold records in frames. And then when you walked to the end of the corridor, it opened up into a big room, and the walls were just full of gold, silver, platinum discs from all over the world. And it just blew your mind. Now, from what I can see, they've got like one big hall, and they just don't seem, there's a lot of discs, but they just don't seem to be as many as there were back then. Only yet I've, in fact, by coincidence, I have my photo album to hand. Let's see if I can find the picture. I think it's in this album. You see the cars, like the pink Cadillac, was just parked on the grass at the back of the house. And I don't know if you can see, but the like Stutz Black Hawk and that, they were just parked out the back. There's one inside. Now I've said that, I probably won't be able to find it. I kept all these like little ticket stubs and my payments to go. Come on, where are you? I think it's in this album. I may have taken it out at some point and put it in another one. I need to get organised. I've got it scanned on my computer as well. I seem to recall taking it out to put somewhere else. I must have, unless it's fallen out in the bag. I have a bag with all my... Hello, Curtis. Me and Elvis. This came out whilst we were there, and I went into a shop, picked it up to buy it. So this is number 814, and where is it? I went up to pay for it. And who was stood there but Charlie Hodge? And as I was in the queue, he said, "That's it, I finished." So I walked up to him and I said, "I've come all the way from England just to get your autograph." And he laughed and he signed it. And in the book, for some reason used it as a marker, there is Rising Sun. And I got to pat him. Don't know if you can see it. Yep. What else have we got in here? Okay, that's me. A lot younger than I am now. And that's me at the gates wearing my Elvis in Concert tour jacket. What else have we got in here? So that was the tickets. I don't know if they still do them, to go up to the house. And that was the ticket to go on the Lisa Marie. And there's my original UK Elvis Presley fan club membership card. Not sure what's happening with the fan club. No, I am still a member, but I know Todd Slaughter was trying to sell it, so I haven't received anything for a while. What else have we got in here? They were very generous to us when we arrived. They gave us all sorts of gifts. A reprint of the Memphis Press Scimitar when Elvis died. A receipt. What is this rip-off with seeing a price on something, taking it up to the till, and then they add tax? In the UK, the price you see on the shelf, you take it to the counter, that's the price you pay. There would be riots if they tried to add things on. That's a reprint of the Commercial Appeal, and whilst we were there, we got to see Carl Perkins perform, and the Colonel sat behind a table, and you walked along, and he had a stamp. He didn't sign. I think he may have had a problem with his hands. So I have the Colonel's stamp. This was what they gave us. Lots of pictures of the Colonel. I can't say this is something I ever look at. I can't actually remember what it was he stamped. Ah, there you go. So you put it down in front of him and he stamped it. What else have we got in here? There are lots of people from different fan clubs around America handing out leaflets. So I picked up a few of those. Yeah, some odd pictures at the back of the house. I'm not a photographer, as you can tell. The walls looking very clean. Not so much graffiti. There was some, but not so much. And that was on the door of my room when I got to the hotel. Room 501. And a very tatty souvenir bag, which is starting to give way, I notice. I took lots of photographs. Like I said, I'm not a photographer, so I just kept snapping away. Tony, I absolutely agree. I think Parker was a total charlatan. He was a fraudster, and by pure chance he landed the biggest star in the world. And Elvis was going to be a superstar no matter who managed him. And I think Parker did a lot of harm to his career. He's got credit he doesn't deserve as far as I'm concerned. You say, oh, he got Elvis onto American television. American television was screaming to get Elvis. He was the biggest star of the moment. He was the big controversial star. He'd have been on there. Hollywood would have come calling. He'd have made his albums. The Heartbreak Hotel didn't exist when I went. I'm not sure when they actually opened it. I'm sure they must have expected fans to take a lot of things home. Did anybody have the gold version of this? Looks exactly the same. Instead of silver, it's gold. Because there are sometimes this is advertised as the first CD set. It isn't. It's the second. The gold version of this is the first. I will get the gold one one day. Yeah, right. White Horses, I think Elvis's mum saw through Parker straight away. It is one of the great tragedies that she died when she did, because I think she would have kept him on the straight and narrow a lot more. Of course, it's said that he started taking drugs when he was in the army to stay awake, when he was on night duties. And then of course if you do that and you need to crash in the day, you take something else. So you can see how easy it is to get caught up in these things. And when you're a very wealthy superstar, you can see how it spirals. But what annoys me, Elvis was a drug addict, in the sense that people use the term. He wasn't. They weren't illegal drugs. They were prescription medicines. But having too many doctors prescribing, I know from my mum, when she was on 15 different tablets a day, if they changed one tablet, it could cause all sorts of problems. So if you have 3 or 4 different doctors prescribing different things at the same time, it's no wonder he got into trouble. Yeah, I think Parker was a bully. Yeah. He got his way, not Elvis's way. His decisions harmed Elvis personally, but they harmed his career. When you're a manager, that's the biggest sin. It's like his insistence that Elvis get writing credit. Elvis never wanted writing credit. It was just a way of eking out these little bits of money, which I think reveal Parker's true background. If he could make an extra 10 cents by doing something, he'd do it, no matter how unwarranted or undeserving. No. It's very hard when you think about it. If I'd been around Elvis, would I have had the guts to tell him he was going wrong? How would he have reacted? I think there are a lot of people whose livelihoods depended on him. But there were some around him, I think, did genuinely care. This is all getting a bit depressing. Elvis should be about fun and joy and music. Apparently there's 17 people watching this now. Kerry. If you look, there are 4 people I know of now who are in the know, who said Elvis was coming. Elvis's road manager has said in an interview that they were due to start a tour the next night after Elvis died, and he said after the last date of that tour he had a flight booked to London where he was going to do the deal for a venue in London for Elvis to do 4 shows. Elvis said he wanted to do it. Bill I'm never sure how you pronounce his name, his costume designer, said Elvis told him personally start designing some costumes for London. And if you look, he was designing a costume with laser lights on it, which had never been done before, and he was actually working on it for Elvis, and they said somebody was working with him later approached Michael Jackson, and Michael Jackson appeared on stage wearing a laser-like costume, which everybody said, you know, how amazing. Bill Bellew, yeah, that's it. How amazing. Well, that was going to be one of Elvis's costumes. And Priscilla also has confirmed that he told her that he was going to do London. What could have been? Because when you read, they said that after the book Elvis, What Happened, Elvis was determined that he was going to lose weight, he was going to get back in shape, and he was going to tour abroad. Elvis coming to the UK would have been incredible. I remember at school, art. I'm not an artist, but the teacher one day had what I thought was a great idea. He said, "I want you to the class. I want you to design an album cover." So of course I did Elvis live in London. If only. I don't think Elvis really ever understood just how much he affected people's lives, how many fans he actually had around the world. Anyway. Yes, Alan, there's another confirmation. Yeah, it was going to happen. Because Elvis needed the challenge. If you look throughout his career, when he was stuck doing the same thing, the quality began to go down and his interest began to fade. But you put a challenge in front of him and boy did he meet it every single time. And it's understandable. You do the same thing every day. I always find it hard to imagine performing so many concerts and pretty much having to sing many of the same songs every night. Of course, as he himself says on Elvis on Tour when he's backstage, this is a new crowd, they've not seen us before. So they're going to expect to hear Hound Dog and Love Me Tender and things like that. So, but it must have been soul destroying to have to keep performing the same songs over and over again. Yeah, Tony, we keep going back to Parker. Yeah, the more you learn about him, the worse it is. And of course, the court cases after Elvis died, when it came out just how much money he'd taken off Elvis. It's one of the things that there are a few things in the Elvis movie that I thought they didn't get right. This total obsession with Elvis's interest in black music, which of course is true, but as President Carter said when Elvis died, it was the fact that Elvis took country and western, rhythm and blues, artists like Mario Lanza and black music, and combined them. So they didn't do that at all. And also the part where at one point Vernon says to Elvis, you know, we're broke, we got no money, you've spent it all. I didn't like that, because Elvis gave away probably as much as he spent. So they didn't show any of his charitable giving. I mean, there's some great stories. The one that I always go back to is the black woman who was disabled and needed a wheelchair, and it appeared on the local news. And so Elvis went out and he bought the most expensive, top-of-the-range wheelchairs. They loaded it into a van, drove to her house, and gave it to her. Showed her it worked and that, you know. Great joy all round and tears all round. And as they were leaving, one of them said to Elvis, I don't think she knew who you were. And Elvis's reply, I think, should be carved in stone. He said, that don't matter. She knows somebody cares. Oh. Hello Jack, it's a surprise to me as well. I was just testing how this works. I didn't expect people to actually turn up, so it's a bit of a shock when Kerry appeared and said hello. Yeah, white horses, he bought his cook a house, yeah. He gave away. There's also the story of the young black woman, a student, stood outside the car showroom and she was upset. And Elvis asked her what was wrong, and he said she'd been saving money to buy a second-hand car because she's starting college. And she went in and they basically turned her away. And so Elvis took her inside and said, "My friend wants to buy a car," and of course then they were all over them. And Elvis said, "Pick out a car." So she chose a car, he bought it for her. And apparently he also gave her a part-time job at Graceland. Why aren't these stories being, the film was a perfect way to get these stories out. Thanks Don, yeah, fingers crossed. My wife's got an appointment with the oncologist next week, just to check up. Pretty gruesome period, anybody that's had to deal with cancer in their families. It's a horrible time. She went through awful things. The surgery was just extreme. And then once she'd recovered enough from the surgery to stand up, they had her straight in for chemo once a week and radio every day, and the radio just burnt her. Horrible. But thankfully it seems to have worked, so we move on. Yes, Tony. Elvis, I can understand people's scepticism about Elvis because he almost seems too good to be true. But when you actually look into it, it is all true. He just cared about everybody. Probably the one person he didn't care enough about was himself. The third big thing I think they missed out in the film was Elvis's sense of humour. You got the impression from the film that after from 70s on, 1970 on, Elvis's life was a depressing, downward spiral, gloomy, and as we know, it's not true. He had the most incredible sense of humour. He was a really funny guy. And the other thing he's not given enough credit for is his intelligence. I think his performance, if you want to call it that, during the Madison Gardens press conference is I think the most assured, intelligent and humorous press conference. Pop stars giving press conferences, only Elvis. Anyone's ever given. You can see he's listening to the question, which is something they never do, and then he tries to answer the question. Other pop stars, you see, you ask them a question and their answer is about their latest release, now you should go out and buy it. And of course the classic when he's asked, would you refuse to be drafted, and he says, I'm just an entertainer, I've got no opinion on that, I'll keep it to myself. Oh please, I'm sick and tired of celebrities these days who, many of them, they might be talented but they're pretty moronic, their education is very lacking, and yet there they are telling us how we should live our lives. They're living these grand lives, jetting around the world and telling us to save the planet. Thanks, Tony. I've never said much about my wife because she's not an Elvis fan. Boo. It's actually quite a story how we met. I've always had computers from very early age. Spectrum ZX81, if anybody knows what that is. Makes you laugh these days. Yes, Alan, I agree. I think they made the 70s too gloomy and depressing. Yeah, so no, definitely, Don. There are always people who will see you as a meal ticket if you've got money and you're generous. were definitely people around him who didn't care about him, which astonishes me. You have the privilege to be around Elvis Presley, witness at first hand this incredible man, and your thought is to take advantage of him. I don't know. Yeah, so when would it have been? Mid-1990s. I bought, I forgot what it's called, Alan Sugar's computer, which had a whole 512 kilobytes of memory, not even a megabyte. But it had a built-in modem, so I thought, oh, what's this? So I plugged it into the phone line, and I knew one person online at the time. And to show you how few people were online, my original email, which is still the one I use personally, Amstrad, that's it, Tony. My original email is redcoat@mail.com. That's it. I think there was me and Alan Sugar online at the time. That would have been about 1997. Yes, Lawrence. Of course, Jerry Schilling was advising on the film, so of course he had a very big role, and he was a bit of a prophet. He could see the future with hindsight. But I didn't mind that too much. But I do think Linda Thompson and Ginger Alden being left out was a bit tight. Yeah. So anyway, I went online, and it said there was a chat room. I didn't know what this was, and back then the chat room was literally something where you just typed the message and pressed enter. And one day I was on there and somebody appeared who said that they were Russian, working in West Africa. I had a great interest in Imperial Russian history. I'm a history buff. And we got chatting on there, and we spent the whole night talking about Dostoevsky and Pushkin and Turgenev and things like that. And she gave me a phone number, I rang her, and I ended up flying. I can't believe this, today you think about this. I flew to the Ivory Coast, Abidjan, to meet a Russian woman that I'd met online. Sounds insane now. But we really hit it off, and we visited each other for the next year, had a relationship, and then she vanished. And I found out later what happened, but anyway. We then move on to 2014, and I appeared in a local newspaper for some history project that I'd completed. And it gave an email address, and suddenly there was this email from her saying, I've been looking for you for years, blah blah blah. I flew to Moscow. A year later we got married. So it would have been a bit tight if God had taken her off with cancer after all that. But anyway, that's our story. I'm losing track of time. How long have I been doing this? By an hour and 20 minutes. Thanks, Kerry. You were the first here. So you have a good day. It's 10 to 8 in the evening here. I'll probably see you around again. The next time I do this properly, I'll have something arranged to talk about in the show. I just want to see how much of a delay there is still between. Still about 5 seconds between what I see on the screen. Down here I'm from a town called Cheltenham in Gloucestershire, part of the Cotswolds, a beautiful place if you like rolling green hills, countryside and sheep. I really like it here. Alan, hello from New Zealand. Still people appearing. I really want the New Zealand Christmas album with the scene of the church. I would love that, but it's so damned expensive. I suppose being in New Zealand, there's always the chance that you could walk into a second-hand, well, probably not a second-hand record shop because they know, but a junk shop, or a fair, church fair or something like that, and find a copy. Annie from Canada, hello. Still people appearing. So those who've just appeared, I was just testing this. I didn't think anybody would actually turn up. So I didn't have anything particularly to talk about, so I'm just waffling. Jack, that 4-year-old grandson. That's still a good age. They're a lot of fun. It's when they get older, it stops being fun. Tony from Yorkshire. My dad was a Yorkshireman. He was born in Dewsbury. £220, Alan. Oh, I would buy it if I was there. If it's in decent condition. The other one I really want is the Japanese one with the baubles on it. I have this thing about the Christmas album. I don't know how many I've got now. I've got far too many Christmas albums. Every time I see one, I buy it. Thanks, Don. It came as a real surprise when people started watching my videos. What got me started was the Elvis in Japan channel, David. I saw one of his videos and I thought, that's interesting. It's a chance to show things from your collection. So I made a video, very unsure about what I was doing, not thinking that anybody would even find it, and to my surprise people started watching and started subscribing. Yeah, Don, I really like his channel. He got me buying Japanese records, but they are impressive. But I have this thing about non-UK. I love to see an album that I know well. So if you have Blue Hawaii, of course we all know what Blue Hawaii looks like. And then you see a pressing of it from another country and it looks different and the text is different, and it's just, I have to buy it. Getting enough money to buy all these things is the thing. I've also been buying a lot of the new releases, but I think I'll cut back a bit, you know, the like Wax Time and things like that. I do like them, but they are getting a bit much. I'd rather have releases from when Elvis was alive, from different parts of the world. Let's see if I've got something here. As I said, I haven't planned anything, so what have we got? What I can show. This. So this is Loving You from Italy, or Amami Teneramenti. If anybody speaks Italian, I have no idea what that actually means. All the song titles are in English. The Spanish albums tend to translate the titles. It always surprises me that the French albums don't have the titles in French. The French have always been a bit fussy about their language and not allowing English to infiltrate too much. So I was really surprised when I bought a French album that most of it was in English. Don, I said earlier, I tend nowadays only to buy the studio FTDs. Of course I love Elvis's concerts, but they've produced so much of it, and I think, do I want to spend for another concert that you know, he's singing songs, I've got many versions of him performing them, or shall I buy an original album from Argentina or Peru? I'd rather do that. If it's a key concert, there are, you know, with particularly great performance, rare songs on it, then I'll buy it. But something has to give. I can't buy everything as much as I'd like to. So I did sort of, when FTD first started, I was buying the CDs as they came out. But so I'm not sure how far into them I got. So these are all the first releases, FTDs. And then it got to the point where I thought, why am I buying all of these? And so I buy selected ones. As I said before, I have got all the studio boxes. They're fantastic. Some people can't understand how you can sit there and listen to 10, 15, 20 takes of the same song. I love it. So I have got all the studio boxes. I've also got some of the Memphis Recording Service stuff. These are really nice. Nicely put together, good sets. Come with booklets, well researched, well written. Nice compact. Every soundtrack. So I do like these. And then of course there's the, I can't believe how much people are asking for this on eBay. I bought this off the shelf. Where was it? I can't think now. I think it was a shop called Stylus 4 that used to be in Cheltenham. So it's a nice set, reproductions of all the Sun singles with a booklet and a special album. So they basically just reproduced the Sun records. So of course for a lot of people that's as close as we can get to a Sun record. And as I said earlier, when I was about 14 I think, my mum came back one day with a magazine she'd seen in the shop for me, which is probably around here somewhere, and I think it was called The Complete Elvis. Yeah, Curtis, it's a nice set. So this magazine showed the Sun singles, and people probably can't appreciate what it was like back in the mid 70s, early 80s. The only times you saw anything Elvis was on the television. There were 3 television channels. They closed down at midnight. Or the occasional magazine or book. So it wasn't easy to get information. The Elvis Fan Club, Elvis Monthly, was the main way to keep up with Elvis. So every month they produced a little magazine. Yeah, Don, the Black Tornado vinyl. I do like the look of that. I haven't bought it yet. I've bought some of their vinyl. Really nice quality. I do like the look of that. And apparently it's a really good show. So I am going to get it. The trouble is, when I decide to get something, I can't just get the vinyl. I have to get the vinyl and the CD. I have many things up there. I've got the vinyl, the CD and the cassette. I keep dreading that they're going to come out with another format. Chips that you implant in your brain, and then I'll have to buy everything again on chip to implant in my brain. Yeah, Curtis, I think I've seen some of your videos where you've played some tracks from it. It does sound really good. Anyway, so the Sun, back to that. So of course I always wanted a Sun record, but living in Cheltenham, you're never going to see anything like that. So over the years I saved up the money, and I did the research. I booked somewhere, I've got it here. There's a book somebody produced, which you can buy on eBay. That's not it, but that's the HMV one. Very well. Fantastic research. Worth getting. And there's a similar one, but it's on Sun Records. It tells you what to look for and about the fakes and stuff like that. So I did the research. Got to know a good American Elvis record dealer, and I said to him, I want a Sun single. I want a 100% guarantee it's genuine. I'm happy to pay the price. So a couple of months later he contacted me. He said, I've got you a 45 and a 78. Do you want both? Yes, of course I do. So I paid. There was then the agonising wait, and I watched the tracking as it moved across America and then over here. And of course once it arrives here it disappears into Royal Mail, and then suddenly one day there's a knock at the door, and there's this parcel and a very anxious opening, and so there's Baby Let's Play House, and left to right she's gone, and it has the push marks under the label, and my 78, I forgot to remember to forget, Mystery Train, really good labels. There's a little bit of pencil writing there, but other than that, perfectly clean. The cover on the 45 is genuine. This covers reproduction, and of course they weren't sold in these covers, the 78s. They were sold in plain brown bags. But, these are my two prized possessions. If the house caught fire, these would be the ones that I grab. I was just so I had a smile on my face the whole month. I love them. Having those two satisfies my need. I don't feel the need to have all five. If I had the money I would, but the thing about having those Sun, I would love to get a 1950s American record player and play one, to hear what it actually would have sounded like at the time. Of course modern record players are different. Would be very interesting. What difference would it actually make? The HMVs, of course, have got all the 78s and some of the singles, and the 3 albums. Because of course in the UK, Elvis's first releases weren't on RCA. RCA didn't have a production facility, as I understand it, in the UK at the time, so they licensed HMV to handle their releases here. So one of the trick questions you could ask is, what was Elvis's first RCA #1 single in the UK? Because most people would get that wrong, because Elvis's first #1 single in the UK was released on the HMV label. Don, yeah, the poster, quite a few people remark on that. The picture comes from a book. And I always loved it. I thought that's a really special picture. So I got it scanned in very high definition. And then I sent the file to one of these online publishers and asked them to make a poster. And that's what they did. It's a great shot. Somebody asked me about it. I did actually send them the file and they got one printed. I wonder if there's a way I can make the file available. It's a great picture. I had to control myself because when I saw it came out I thought, oh, what else can I get done? And I had these visions of having the whole house wallpapered in posters. Curtis, did the UK release a CD of The Sound of Your Cry? Never seen one, no. And of course the UK The Sound of Your Cry is different to the American. Why did they call the American version Greatest Hits Volume 1? Baffles me. Very strange decision. Of course it gave me a variation to buy. Darn, in the UK it's all shook up. Heartbreak Hotel got to number 2. So many Elvis singles got to number 2. Really annoying. The one that is the most known, of course, is Burning Love. Kept off the number 1 spot by Chuck Berry. I don't wish Chuck Berry harm, but the song, oh dear. And that kept Burning Love off the number 1 spot. Yeah, Curtis, why did they call it Greatest Hits? It was the selection of songs, you couldn't really say they were his greatest hits. And why was it Volume 1? Weird. Somewhere. But a lot of my collection was put into storage when I was abroad. I spent 3 years in Finland and then I was travelling around for quite a bit. One of the great losses I had a collection of cassettes, because back then I would buy the vinyl album and the cassette. So I had a lot of the original UK cassettes which had the red bar at the top of the cover and orange paper labels on the cassette itself. I must have had 50 or 60 in a box, and when I went abroad my dad put them in the garage and it rained and there was a leak and they got ruined. I keep looking at cassettes and thinking, should I start buying them, and I have to force myself to look away. I don't know if any of you collect cassettes, but they are becoming fashionable again. One of the things I bought when I went into a record shop and they just happened to have them, I went a bit mad, were these. From memory I think they're Danish. So that's all of the ones in the set. I didn't actually look to see what was on them because that was irrelevant. I just saw them all and thought, I've got to buy them. The shopkeeper loved me. Some have got the same picture on, but they are different. That's a nice one. Shows how long ago since I've seen these. They're sticking together. That's not a suit I liked. That's not keen on that one. That jumpsuit. That's a great one. Now I'm sure when they produced these, they had no thought as to what was actually on them. it was just knock out as many. That's a good one. That picture's on the picture sleeve of the Japanese Charo single. I really want it, it's really expensive. And this was a second set, so again I bought them all. Why? Never going to play them. Just never ends. Yeah, Don, I like the Indian suit as well. The video I'm going to do on the On Stage album, when I first saw that cover I really liked the suit, but I couldn't work out what it was. All that strange stuff around his neck. And of course it turns out that the jumpsuit itself is just a plain white tunic, which I think looks really good. I think his simpler suits look the best. And then he had like this macrame thing that you put on around his neck, and a macrame belt. And he wore it at the Houston Astrodome concerts. So I agree, Tony, the gypsy suit. I don't like those suits that had the neckline that came down and, you know, they didn't suit him. I always think about Elvis, he could get away with wearing things that on anybody else would look absolutely ridiculous. He's got to, really, when you think about it, he's got to have been the greatest male model in history. Not only was an incredibly handsome guy, probably the only man that you could call beautiful. I always liked the story Jerry Reed when you first met him. He tells this story in an interview. He said, I looked at him and he was just so incredibly good looking. He said, I'm not gay, but right now I kind of wish I was a woman. So yeah, I think Elvis could wear anything and make it look incredible. You put it on somebody else. Jumpsuits, the impersonators, they look terrible. Yeah, Curtis, the ones he wore on tour. Yeah, and the Madison Square Garden, the pale blue. I like the white suit with the red ladder as they call it. I like that. The 69 stuff, very plain. I think fantastic. The peacock, I love that. It says I've been streaming for an hour and 51 minutes. I intended to come on here for about 10 minutes just to work out how the setup actually works. It says in the instructions it's really simple to do. It took me an hour. I find it a bit unnerving when you download one of these programs that you stream through. When you actually download it and the first time you use it, you have to agree to give the company complete access to your channel, which is really unnerving. I sort of stopped and I googled it, and apparently this is true on all of them. Now they do explain that it's safe, but I do find it a bit odd. But everybody does it. Curtis, I don't know if you're aware of, there's a channel called EFAP, Every Frame Appalls. They review and criticise films and things like that. And it's literally 2 seconds of film and they stop and discuss. And it's surprisingly interesting. I think their record is something like 9 hours. Yeah, Tony, the black and white suits I love the plain suits. Yeah, they really suit him. They do. Yeah. In the 70s they were good. By sort of 75, I think they were getting a bit over the top, the suits. Still some nice ones, but some of them were a mistake. Can't really understand why he said okay. They didn't make him look good. I think that was one of the problems. But I guess when you're on stage and people are sitting at the back, it's putting on a show. Yeah, Don, the black leather. I don't know if you heard the story. I was looking up this thing about the swatches of material they gave away with Worldwide Gold Records Volume 2. And the chap who was actually involved in that, he gave an interview, and he said, I can absolutely guarantee that every swatch came from Elvis's wardrobe. He said they came up with the idea, Elvis agreed, so he was told to go to Graceland and some things would be put out in a box. So he took them back, and he said one of the things in there was the black leather suit, and he said that the white suit that he sang If I Can Dream, that was in there, and thank God, he said, we can't cut these up. He said there's got to be a mistake, and so the key suits that he thought were important he put to one side and he took them back. Can you imagine that, if they cut up those suits? But he guaranteed that every swatch did come from Elvis's wardrobe, which is interesting to know. Whether he actually wore some of it. Another one I remember him saying was the clambake suit with the stitching on. That was the jacket was in there. Thankfully he knew, he was obviously a fan and he knew what these things were, he recognised them, and he said no, do not touch these, these are going back. Who on earth put those out? There's a lot of very good interviews out there you can find if you look, people who were working behind the scenes and that, telling their stories. Yes, Tony, I watch Ed, Scott and Mark. I was thinking that maybe we should all get together and advertise all the channels, so that if we've got people watching us that don't watch them, they can find them. Because if you like what I do, you're going to like what they do. Scott's channel is just incredible. His skills at editing just leave me... I did actually try to put together a video edited with, you know, a soundtrack and various things. I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. Mal, hello. Everybody's turning up for my test. This was going to be my 10-minute test, and I didn't think anybody was actually going to be there, and then Kerry showed up, and nearly 2 hours later there are 18 people watching apparently. 21 watching, 17 likes. People like me sitting here waffling. Well, I've shown you my Sun records. Oh, I finally got this back. My wife pinched this. She likes it. My nipper, this is a big heavy metal lump. This appeared on eBay. 25 quid. I thought I liked that. So there you go. Of course this appears on Elvis's American albums, but this is actually British logo. I did tell the story on my videos about HMV. So this was HMV's logo. Apparently the artist had a dog, he painted the picture, the president of HMV saw it, liked it, bought it, and made it their logo. So it appears on all the UK HMV releases as well. But then when RCA started releasing records in the UK, they didn't have the right to use it. So bizarrely, Nipper appears in America, even though it's British, but not in the UK on RCA releases. My wife pinched it. I got it back. Rogers Foundry Birmingham, I don't know how old it is. It's probably got some age, because there's probably not many foundries left in Birmingham. It weighs a bit. This is the current UK Elvis Presley fan club card. I showed you my original earlier. So somewhere I've got my original gold badge. In fact, it used to be on here, but I've probably tied it up. When I tidy up, things disappear. You're better off just leaving them in a mess. I have all sorts of strange things on my desk. Like this. I was saying earlier that I'm a big history buff. Roman history was my big thing. And I kept this, a silver denarius of the Emperor Trajan, the greatest Roman emperor of all. So that was quite a bit of money back then. I'm surrounded by all sorts of strange things in this room, apart from my Elvis collection. There's Imperial Russian things, Roman, Finnish, I have a big interest. Yeah, Tony, yep, got your gold badge as well. I don't know if they still produce them or not. No, did you sign this with Flaming Star? No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Is this on Mark's video where I mentioned that he needs to get the stereo one? I haven't checked back. See, that's the collector in me. Yeah, that's the collector in all of us. Somebody gets the mono. That's great, you've got the mono. Get the stereo. Don, what's your favourite Elvis album that you own? Who's your favourite child? Impossible for me to answer these questions. Favourite album? I have a soft spot for Promised Land. Not his greatest album, but the reason I have this soft spot, it's the first album that I bought the day it was released. When I say I bought, I asked my mum to get it for me. But I had saved up my pocket money. And I still remember to this day the excitement of waiting for her to come back. And she walked in and she handed me this plain brown bag, and I pulled out the album. And of course the UK albums always have nice glossy covers, and this black image of Elvis, it looked fantastic. And I was just in awe, and I put it on, and I loved every song. And I remember my dad walking in and saying, "What'd you buy that for? It hasn't got all his hits on it." As I said, my dad was a Yorkshireman. British people will know what that means. Did you hear the rumour Elvis was shown around London by Tommy Steele? Yeah, nonsense. Nonsense. Don't believe it at all. No. Don't know why they would make these things up. It's strange. It's a bit like the Dionne Warwick story about Elvis having his photo put in her albums to increase the record sales. She tells this story, it doesn't make any sense. Never heard of it, never seen any evidence, and it doesn't make any sense. So why do they say these things? Don't know. Yeah, Tony, I find it impossible to answer questions about what's your favourite anything. What's your favourite brand of custard? I can't answer these questions. Dear. So Elvis for me was always number one, way above. I mean, just in the stratosphere. And when I was a kid, I thought it was disloyal to like any other music. So every other artist, when I was, we're talking teenager, in the 70s, every other artist, music was crap. Because to me, I felt if I said, oh, I like that, that was disloyal to Elvis. Of course, as you get older, you realise that there's a lot of other great music out there. And Elvis, of course, himself was so influenced by other artists. And you never heard him say a bad word about anyone. He always praised other artists. Yeah, Don, I always find any record I've got that has a memory attached to it. So many of mine have, particularly of my mum. My mum wasn't an Elvis fan, but she liked him. But she was always, if she saw something, she was out shopping and she saw something, oh, Steve would like that, it's about Elvis. She would buy it for me. So there's a lot of things I have. The Camden Christmas album. Of course, being young, you didn't have a lot of money back then. So you could either save up for a few months' pocket money to buy a regular release, or save up a couple of months and buy a Camden, or maybe two Camdens. So the Camdens were sort of the introduction. And back then you didn't think, oh, these are cheap albums, compilations of odd songs. These were Elvis records. To me, it didn't, Promised Land, Separate Ways, Camden, same thing. The Christmas album has a lot of memories attached. Promised Land should have included Tea on the Grave for some piece of it. I'll put it on today. There's lots of strange choices, Tony. I really don't understand what they were thinking a lot of these things. I do remember one of the photographers who took pictures of Elvis in concerts and was asked to provide a picture for one of Elvis's albums, and he says he went to see the Colonel with a selection of photographs. He put them on the desk and the Colonel didn't look up, he just stuck his hand out and went, that one. And he said there were far better shots on the desk. That's the Colonel. Andrew, do you collect any Elvis 78 records? I have all the HMV 78s and most of the RCA UK 78s. I have a couple of US 78s. So yes is the answer. Super Jesse Garron. Thanks. It's 1973, as you can tell by my name, I started buying. But my claim is that I was an Elvis fan much younger. My mum used to tell the story. They had one of those portable record players, like in a case, and she said they would put it on the floor, put a stack of singles on, so like you'd play a single, the arm would move out the way, the next single would drop. And she said they would sit me in front of it with a Farley's rusk, which tells you how young I was, if you know what that is. It's for babies to chew on, because they haven't got teeth. And she said I would watch the record spin and then the next one fall down, so I wasn't actually listening to the music, I was sort of entertained by the process. But she said they noticed there was one record where I reacted differently and I started moving my arms, and that was King Creole Dixieland Rock single. So they did an experiment where they put it amongst some singles and watched, and as soon as it came on I reacted to it. So she said I was an Elvis fan before I could speak. And yeah, Curtis's Hand in Mine. Did he ever sound better? I mean, just, yeah, he sounded great throughout, but just the purity in his voice. Yeah, Don, I couldn't understand that, why it was all live shots on the 70s album covers. They just didn't seem to take any great care. You know, other artists have classic albums with great songs on, great covers. Elvis's albums tend not to be considered as classics, not because he's not great, but because they didn't make classic albums, leaving the best songs off his 50s albums because they were singles. Where's the logic? Doesn't make sense. Well, I went to see all the Elvis films in the 60s with his mum. Yeah. Yeah, one of the things that having easy access to DVDs and things like that has spoilt about. It's great to have them, but how often do you watch them? Whereas back then it used to be, there's an Elvis film on BBC Two next week. It was a big thing. Well, everybody made arrangements, we're going to sit and watch it. I remember when I first started work, Severn Trent Water Authority. I went into work, a young 17-year-old, didn't know anything about anything. Sat down with your first cup of coffee of the day, opened the newspaper, and that afternoon BBC Two was showing an Elvis film. I think it was Girl Happy. And being a naive idiot, I went to my boss and I said, "Can I have the afternoon off?" And he said, "Why?" And instead of saying I've got a doctor's appointment, I said Elvis is on it. What he must have thought, but he said yes. God, what an idiot. But you know, you made a point of watching these films because when are they going to be on? Now that I've got them sat on the shelf here, I never watch them. Mad. And of course the big one was the day Elvis died. BBC showed Elvis That's the Way It Is in the evening. And the whole family, even though my sisters weren't Elvis fans, you know, they like the Bay City Rollers and things like that, we all sat there and watched in silence. Everybody sort of recognised what had happened. And I watched sort of numb. I felt numb until the very last scene, and they put up the titles, and instead of saying "That's the Way It Is," they changed it to "That's the Way It Was," and that just, I started crying then. Still makes me sort of choke up a bit thinking about it. Andrew, the Britannia Record Club, I don't know what that is. Yeah, hits of the 70s. Of course, hits of the 70s should have been Gold Records Volume 5. Why on earth they didn't call it that, I don't know. It's funny sitting here. I don't talk much during the day. Most of my work is research, sat in front of a computer or with books. So I can be pretty silent most of the day. And here I am talking to a camera to people all over the world. It's weird. But isn't it great that we can all connect and talk to each other about something we love? Because people around us, even our families, don't really understand. Unless you're in it, it's hard to understand. So how many hours is this going to go on? I've got to go to work in the morning. What else can I show you? There's so many things that I don't actually know what to show. Nipper out of the way. So you asked about 78s. I remember that portable record player my parents had, of course, had a 78 setting. Of course, we all had great fun playing 45s on 78 or on 33. I don't know what damage it did to the records. It blew my mind when I found out that you're supposed to have a different stylus for mono and stereo records. I had no idea. Played everything on the same. I do wonder what difference it makes. So There's the American Lovely Tender, 78. Too Much. Don't know if these are original sleeves, that's what they came in. I think I've got all of these except the 3 rare ones. It's a bit like the UK 45s. I've got them all except the one that nobody seems to have, which you may know what that is. So these are the HMV 78s. With Nipper on, because that was they owned the rights to the logo. So I've got all the 78s from HMV, and that's the cover they changed to later on. Now, I want a record player. My memories of playing records is that it does sound different to CDs. People say it sounds warmer. I don't know how to explain it, but there is a difference. I want one. As I said before, I find it very difficult to choose things, and every time I look at the wide range of record players available, it just blows my mind. When you say, I want a record player, and then it's like, do you need this and this and this and this and this? I always think of the sketch on Not the 9 O'Clock News, where Rowan Atkinson walks into a hi-fi shop to buy a record player, and the 2 people behind start questioning him. You know, do you want a subwoofer? Do you want this? Do you want that? I feel like him, not a clue what they're talking about. Does it make a difference? I don't know. When I had a record player, it was a record player. It had a record player on it, it had a radio, it had a cassette, and it had a CD. I don't know what kind of record player it was, and what difference it made. I like these 2 10-inch albums that came out. This is how you do covers. Fantastic. Now that looks like a classic album. It just has that look. These were a couple of bootlegs, live recordings from the 70s, Don't Cry Daddy, Kentucky Ray, stuff that wasn't available at the time. Volume 2, Trouble, Long Tall Sally, I Got a Woman, Big Boss Man, all live recordings, good quality, not available at the time. I have all the Elvis 10-inch singles. I never really understood the concept of a 10-inch single, as I understand it, was for dance music. So I'm sure RCA just saw it as another way of exploiting the fans, put them out, they'll buy them. Not sure where. I don't know if you'll be able to see. So here we have My Boy in various picture singles, Japanese singles, 78s and 10-inch albums, FTDs, various gold records and things like that. So that's the way it is set, fantastic. The gospel set, fantastic. So Elvis's Sons, all the various Sun records, the first releases, CD, cassette and vinyl box sets up there. And CD sets, various CDs, 2 EP sets, UK, various other boxes, FTD studio stuff, soundtrack albums, gold standard, this is full of gold standard as well, various other things, various odd albums, laser discs, etc. Camden's Christmas and Religious. Up here we have all of Elvis's US EPs. I don't know if you'll be able to see. Up there, bootlegs, live albums. Up there is all Bruce Springsteen. Down there, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, Black Sabbath, various things. And tucked away down here, a whole load of CDs. Tori Amos, believe it or not. And Bob Dylan, did I say? In fact, that shelf's Bob Dylan, Bruce Springsteen's down there. Loads of Bob Dylan. I'm big on lyrics. I love clever lyrics. Bob Dylan, Leonard Cohen, Tori Amos, great songwriter. Will I be able to get this back? In my attic I still have boxes with records in which I have to go through. There are some things I know I had that I haven't found. How many times do you go out and see an album and think, oh, I'll buy that, and get home and find you've already got it? Yeah, Tony, the 78, the Shark, is very brittle. I gave one away in a little prize draw on the channel, and a chap in Israel won it, and when it arrived it was in 2 pieces. I tried very hard to pack it well, but you put, as I understand it, you put them together in a frame so it looks okay, but very disappointing. Survived all those years. I was saying earlier that my next video is going to be on stage. I'm waiting for one particular album to arrive, which has come from abroad. For me it's the strangest version of On Stage, though I do have a theory as to why they did it. As I said, around this room there's all sorts of strange things. I won't show you the other side, it's a bit untidy at the moment. I have masses of books. I love books. You can never have enough books. Any subject you get interested in, the first thing to do is buy an authoritative, recognised book. Get to know your subject. For many years I've also been a collector of campaign medals, which I research and actually made a good business out of. It has helped finance my record buying. So I have all sorts of odd things around, as I said. We've got 22 people here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's a lot of people hiding in the background. What time is it? 8:45. Another 15 minutes then, and then I better get off. This was going to be 10 minutes to test the camera and the microphone. What else can I show you? so much stuff, it's hard to sort of focus on something. I could show you 32 copies of Blue Hawaii. That would get rid of all of you. You're not in the camera.
Why?
Because you have to get in the camera. My special guest appearance by my wife. Quite often when I'm shooting videos, she bursts through the door shouting surprise, and I have to stop and start again. Got people all over the world.
I made a pumpkin, stuffed pumpkin.
Mm-hmm.
You go eat it now and shut all the people in the world.
I said I'll be going down in a few minutes.
Why am I looking at the camera? I want to see how it looks.
No, I don't have a complete FTD collection. I explained before that I decided not to buy them all. A, it's just too much money, and if you didn't get some of the early stuff, it's really expensive. And B, I can't get excited about many concerts that sound pretty much the same. Anything studio, I'll buy. I do wish I'd bought the books. The books are fantastic, but massively overpriced. So as much as I love the books and I would like to get them, I'm going to steer clear. Andrew, do you ever go around charity shops? I was in one Saturday. I went through many records. I found one copy of The Wonder of You. It was actually in pretty nice condition, 50 pence. Didn't need it, but I bought it. Why not? But I'm sure that there are bargains out there. It's just finding them. Tony, 1966. 8 years old, Elvis fan. I was 2 in 1966. Don, as I was saying before, I mean, it must have been awful for Elvis to have to perform the same song, but he himself, I think, explains it in On Tour, one of the backstage scenes, when he says, we have to do a great show for the crowd. This is, there are people out there seeing us for the first time, so this is brand new to them, and of course they're going to want to hear the famous songs, whether they're fans or not. They want to hear Hound Dog, they want to hear whatever, Love Me Tender, and I suppose he felt he had to do them. But yeah, he could have played around a bit. Of course, there was that time when he did change everything for a couple of shows. So it gave us some really rare performances, things like Down in the Alley and stuff like that. But then he quickly switched back. I would be interested to know why. Was there a reaction? Don't know. Yeah, Don, he could have mixed it up a bit more. There are songs that you think, why on earth did he... Such a Night. Why did he not sing that live? Viva Las Vegas in Las Vegas. Why didn't he sing that live? Strange. We did open with a few different songs over the years. Tony, yeah, Separate Ways, of Camden. I think Camden's are how a lot of us got started. And Separate Ways is a great album. Yeah, Tony, we are an Elvis family of collectors, we are. blows your mind when you think that Elvis thought he wouldn't be remembered. No. 10 more minutes then. I've been summoned pumpkin pie apparently. No, stuffed pumpkin. Stuffed with what? It's always a mystery to me, these Russian dishes. I don't know if you've ever heard of herring under fur coat. My wife makes it every Christmas, New Year. Traditional. I keep explaining to her it's traditional because that's all the food you had in the Soviet Union at the time. You're living in the West now, there's many different foods that taste good. But no, it's traditional to eat herring under fur coat. It tastes as bad as it sounds, trust me. Andrew. Yeah, just tell her Jim said hello. What a great song. Great song. Suspicion. Why didn't he do these songs live? Gary, do you think there's anything left in the vaults? I'd be surprised if there's anything significant. There's stuff missing, of course. The one that I always wonder about is the recording of We Had It All. Mal, thanks for dropping in. See you around. It's been confirmed by several people that he recorded the song We Had It All, and apparently when he finished the last take he said, don't you release that until 20 years after I'm dead. And they say that he was struggling with it because he'd broken up with Priscilla, and I don't know if you know the song, but it's about a man who realises what a huge mistake he's made. Yeah, Don, the who was it? David Briggs and Norbert Putnam, who I think had something to do with the publishing rights to the song. They played on it. They said they were in the studio. He did, I think they said 6 takes, and he completed a take, and then he said, don't you release that until 20 years after I'm dead, and he left the studio. And apparently Felton Jarvis said that he could hear on Elvis's vocal that he was struggling with the words. What happened to it? They obviously haven't got it because it would have been released by now, so where did it go? Hopefully somebody took the tapes home and it will surface one day. But if you Google Elvis We Had It All, you'll find Norbert Putnam's interview where he talks about it. I knew the song from Bob Dylan's live versions of it when he did the tour with Tom Petty, and I thought, oh, what a great song. So when I read that, I thought, oh my god, where is Elvis's version of this song? I think he does say in the interview that he'd heard that was it one of the engineers had taken the tape. So we have to hope that it's out there somewhere and it will turn up. But things do turn up. And some of those early acetates, full, things like that, Heart of Stone. Who could have dreamt that these things existed? Tony, I don't have a record player. I haven't had a record player since the year 2000. I want a record player. Hopefully I will eventually get a record player. I'm very lazy. I played everything on CDs and then MP3s. Of course the sound quality, it does lose something, but being lazy, you sort of get into the habit. Yes, Don, there's many songs I just wish he'd have sung live. What was the song? I was thinking of something. It slipped out of my head. But I was listening to it one day and I thought, oh wow, if he'd have done a similar arrangement to What Now My Love to this live in the 70s, it would have been fantastic. Can't think what the song was. An alarm going off somewhere, car alarm. Maybe it's my wife sounding the alarm. Yeah, Danny Harbour lights, yeah. There was all those rumours about tracks he's supposed to have recorded at Sun. And of course, tape was probably expensive, and it probably got wiped and reused. Who knows? We still have to hope that somewhere there are these canisters, like the binaural tracks, that were earmarked to be destroyed and weren't, and somebody found them. Right, I think I better go. My stuffed pumpkin, find out what it's stuffed with. I hope it isn't raw herring. So, an unexpected stream. As I said, I came on for 10 minutes to test this, not thinking anybody would... I didn't realise that you could actually see that this was on. So thank you all for taking part and commenting. It's been fun. And I will definitely do it again. I'll try and think of some sort of structure to this next time. So you all have a good day, evening, night, wherever you are in the world. Keep buying the records and CDs, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.